Hey guys, this is Tiffany with the Nerdettes, and I'm here to talk about the newest episode of, oh my gosh, the Orville. And this is called Mad Idolatry. And wow. I mean, I love how every episode reminds me of different things. Like, I've actually had episodes that have reminded me of Firefly episodes, like our dear Mrs. Reynolds, and there's been so many that have reminded me of like Doctor Who, previous Star Trek. Star Wars, even Black Mirror. Obviously, we had that reference happen. Very much in your face reference. So now in Mad Idolatry, it really does remind me quite a bit of Firefly again, and we'll talk about that as well as just the episode in general. So basically, it opens with Ed going to get a drink. He wants to, have some company. It's a weeknight. So it's like that weeknight when we're all at our jobs and we want to, you always have that work friend that wants to maybe go out after, and everybody's just too exhausted and too tired, or has too many other things to do during the weeknight than go get a drink. So Ed's like that friend that wants to like go with his coworker and get a drink, but everyone is either busy, they're in their pajamas, they have company over, or they have plans or something like that. Well, finally, he goes through Malloy, and he goes through John, he goes through all of his, a bunch of his, the coworkers, and he gets to Bordis, who invites him in for like their kind of drink, which is obviously very nasty. It looks like quite literally liquid poo, and Ed, being a good sport, drinks it to his own disgust. And he basically, he admits he doesn't know a lot about Bordis's culture and his race, or what they enjoy doing in their spare time, like hobbies or games or anything like that. So Bordis talks about how they play a game called Latchcomb. And Latchcomb, he brings out this kind of like small, not exactly a football, but it's kind of shaped in that kind of way, and says, what you do is you kind of throw it to another individual. Kind of, it's basically like an intricate hot potato. But this game of hot potato has a little bit of a twist, because it's like Russian roulette hot potato, as would be suiting of Bordis. And whoever is stuck with it at the end of this game gets the surprise, which is basically the blade inside this thing just springs out and cut huge blade and just cuts your hand in the middle, and that whoever gets that is the winner. So obviously Ed's holding it, and he's like, "Do we just keep doing this?" The game, that round ends, and the blade actually goes through the palm of his hand. So yeah, that's fun, totally, yeah. Anyway, so he's bandaged up, and he's in bed, and he still can't sleep, and it's almost like that drunk call you make at the night, but he wants to be drunk but isn't, and he ends up calling Kelly, who also can't sleep, and he asks her if she would like to go get a drink. So they do. They hang out, and he basically finally admits that he's thought a lot about everything since Derulio was there and left, and now he's realized that there was a possibility, even though he kind of all blamed it on her, that it wasn't her fault, that there were other factors at play, that Derulio's pheromones could have influenced a lot of it, and basically admits he misses her and asks her on a date. And she says yes, and it seems like they might have a chance of being together again. So, and when they're back on the the main deck and whatever, they all of a sudden there's like an alarm, like there's some sort of space anomaly, and all of a sudden this planet appears out of nowhere, out of thin air. So as what they do is they get a shuttle of like Kelly and Isaac and I'm trying to think who else, they go down to investigate this thing, and right as they're investigating what this could be, that's when the planet appears out of nowhere. So they're immediately caught up in the gravitational pull, and they crash into the planet. And of course, yet again, it's going to take time to fix, which they can. It's just going to take some time. So um, this they kind of like explore while they're waiting on the ship to be repaired, because at the same time they want to get some intel on this planet and observe the life forms and whatnot. So after doing some scanning and kind of looking at this terrain, they discover that there are human-like life forms on this planet that seem to be almost the equivalent of living like we on Earth lived in the Bronze Age. And Kelly meets this kind of, scuffed up, kind of like dirty, just from actual like playing in the dirt type, dirty. And she actually surprises this small group of kids without meaning to, as she's observing them. And this little girl who sees her falls and cuts her head. Well, Kelly, being that kind of, nurturing, like healing type of personality, she immediately feels bad and wants to help this little girl. So she, convinces her to let her heal her with her. She has that tool and device that is able to quickly heal like any wounds. So she, takes that device and quickly, like, scans it over the cut, and it disappears. So that's basically it. The planet is going to disappear again. So they get the ship running, the shuttle. They leave and go back to the Orville, and the planet disappears again. So they find out that the planet, what they thought was only a myth, is actually reality. There's such a thing as multiphasic orbit, which basically means that this planet will sit in orbit for a small length of time, and then just vanish. And they essentially will have to sit in orbit for 11 days for it to show up again in the same place. So they decide to wait it out and see what will happen, because Ed does a report. Of course, he leaves out the part where Kelly interacted with a small girl and healed her, just to kind of save her from any charges or questioning from the higher ups. And but they are actually ordered to kind of still analyze the planet and the species to get more information and data. So so they have to sit in orbit for 11 days to wait on the planet to come back. While they're waiting, they're like, well, what can we do? Well, of course, Kelly and Ed finally have a date. They, they're both dressed up. They, are sharing a glass of wine and just sitting together, and kind of joking around and reminiscing. And his cooking is horrible as usual. He makes some peanut butter and jelly, and his is all peanut butter, hers is all jelly, so she has to kiss him, type of thing, that we do when we're like 12, which she actually says. So she ends up kissing him, and again, everything seems to be kind of propelling them back to being together, which, I mean, we've had this tension the entire series. So of course it's going to happen at some point. But anyways, so the planet phases back. Now when it phases back, there are more life forms, and now there are like architecture, like buildings and stuff like that. So they are able to find out with Isaac's intel that their 11 days that they experienced was the equivalent of 700 years for this planet. So they, of course, the same crew goes back to, well, not the same crew. Ed, and of course, they all get a large party together, Kelly included, to go observe this planet again, now that it has been 700 years. And so they land on this planet, and this woman, that they're trying to blend in. So they see these clothes on a clothesline that they're going to use as opposed to their uniforms. And so that they go to take them, and this woman that lives at this cabin where these clothes are from sees them and seems in shock for some reason. And the reason being is that she sees Kelly, and she runs inside and grabs her son, brings her son out to Kelly, and basically asks her to bless him. And so she kind of very badly says, I hope the best for your son, that he may grow and never, may he go to like stay in school and never get a girl pregnant, and so on and so forth. So like they start to travel through this new planet, this updated planet, and these people are like strung up and hung like from their wrists that are bleeding, like they've been bled out, like just hanging up, and dead. And come to find out, like a passerby tells them that the reason that they were strung up is because they defied the most revered law of their planet, which is the word of Kelly, and that these people are forsakers of that word of Kelly. So they go into the square, and there's a building with a large statue of her in her uniform, very well depicted. So it very much is like Janestown. If you've ever seen Firefly, the people just remember him, the hero of Canton, the man they call Jane, he gave them like all the stuff, and money and food and all these supplies, and they revere him as a hero. It's like that. She's kind of revered as this godlike deity of sorts that came from her mountaintop to heal these peasants, as they put it. So basically, they don't want her to make a scene, because there's people in a square that are yet again being hung and made to bleed out because they were thieves, and they stole fruit or food or items, and for their crimes they are judged and found guilty, and they use her name as the reason they've been judged as guilty, because if they weren't guilty, she would magically heal them, as they know that she was able to do with that little girl all these hundreds of years ago. And because she doesn't do it, they all die, basically. So of course she is just beyond upset and shocked to see this, and wants to interfere, but Ed won't let her, of course. So they ultimately go back and talk to the admiral, talk about what's happened, and they're admonished very badly. Why didn't you include this in your initial report? And they're basically banned from having any further contact with this planet, that they need to observe and get data and leave. So Kelly is like, we can't leave them like this, we have to do something. So she decides that they have to go back while it's still in orbit, and basically try to make some sort of difference and change what they believe. So they go back, and Kelly actually reveals herself. They go into like this main church and monastery of sorts, and they talk to the main head chaplain, or like kind of like the equivalent of our Pope, I guess, in this planet. They speak to this man who is named Volandis, and she reveals herself. reveals that she's basically just a mortal, that she believes that she's not a god. She shows them her healing tool that she used and actually demonstrates it by cutting open her palm, healing herself with it, and gives it to this high priest to cut open his palm and do the same thing himself, showing that she's not the one that did this, that it's this tool that has done this thing that is so miraculous to these people. And he seems to understand, like, that she is truly mortal, that she's not this god and deity that they had thought that she was, and that she's someone who, is just like them, and he wants to share the truth. So, knowing that, Kelly and Ed and them think it's safe to leave, and just because they only have like limited minutes before the phase happens again, so they don't want to get stuck here for 700 years and die here. So they, get out of there and wait for it to phase back again. Well, when it comes back, now they have technology, now they have cell phones and social media and social networking and TV and everything like that. So they pull it up on the ship, and it's like, like us, if we were channel surfing, there's like their equivalent of CNN, where they're having a political and like religious debate about how, keeping the word of Kelly in different places, and how it should be okay for it to be like depicted in a school or something like that. And then it goes to like an evangelist or a preacher of sorts, like, giving the word of Kelly to the listeners and to the community, and to, I guess, his congregation. And of course she's sickened by it, because it's obvious that what she did didn't work. And ultimately that's because, unfortunately, when these squires or these people in the church realized that Volandis was going to, tell the people the truth, they killed him. They stab him literally in the back, and they want to keep the people in fear and in, and have that power over them. And ultimately power, wins over truth in that instance. So they kill Volandis and keep this, mythos of Kelly alive. So basically they have to come up with an idea, because to change this, because she can't bear it. It's gotten so bad at this point that she doesn't know what to do. So she volunteers to go herself and live and ultimately die on this planet to try to make a change in how they believe. And Ed obviously can't, he doesn't want to lose his first officer. He doesn't want to lose her as a person, obviously. And she would be going to this planet ultimately defenseless to try to change these people's minds. So of course they veto it, and Isaac actually volunteers to go, because he says to him 700 years is like 700 seconds. He won't even worry, it won't bother him to pass that length of time on this planet. So ultimately he goes to the planet to change it. And when it rephases again, it's very technological. There's a lot of updates. They become space travelers. They've obviously, gone above and beyond their previous technology and knowledge, and they have knowledge of the Orville, have knowledge of Kelly as a mortal human being and who she is. And basically Isaac didn't have to do much of anything. Whenever their technology grew and they became space explorers themselves, they I guess in a way realized that there was more than what they thought was, I guess their doctrine. And that, they learned of Kelly as she is a first officer of the Orville, as a, mortal human being. And basically make her feel like, it's over, you're good to go. This is no longer anything to be concerned about. So, after all this, Kelly, has to have that talk with Ed because she realizes, because of their relationship, because how much he cares for her, he, chose to exclude what she did out of his report officially, and that that she almost, almost died and got in a lot of trouble, and this planet was impacted for hundreds and ultimately thousands of years because of what she, did in this small action, cause and effect, and like a domino effect in a very large and very quick scale. It's like, and like, it's like Doctor Who. You go back in time and you kill a butterfly. Well, that could, change everything for the future, kind of a thing. So it's like a ripple in a perfect, like a still pond of water. Drop a rock or, just a drip, causes that ripple effect. So it's like, kind of like that idea, just by her doing this, caused this huge, 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 effect. So she tells Ed they can't be together because obviously, it's going to interfere with them as professionals, him as a captain, and his competency as a captain, and she doesn't want that to happen. Of course, they both acknowledge that's not going to change the way that they feel, but I mean, they at this point they have to, unfortunately, all that progress that they've made to take a step forward, now they have to take a step back yet again and say, okay, even though we know we feel this way about each other, we can't acknowledge it because we have to put our job first and this professionalism first, and not really acknowledge or act on our feelings. So, it's kind of sad that it came to that, but I mean, I get it. You, especially in a situation like that, when you see the cause of your actions and what has become of Ed not giving this in his initial report, I mean, it spiraled way out of control. So anyways, yeah, this episode, like I said, very much like Janestown on a grand and even modern scale, not just in this like kind of like podunk backwoods kind of country world aspect, and obviously on a very large idol and praising type scale. So anyways, that was a crazy episode. Not really sure what else they're going to do. The finale's coming up quick. I mean, obviously we know it's been renewed for season 2 already. We've gotten that confirmation. So yay for that. I'm really excited. But yeah, so that was Mad Idolatry. Don't forget, we are giving away some amazing games right now, right in time for Christmas. We will be doing like Prime shipping. So, or of course, if you want something on Steam, that's immediate. So, but we are giving away Star Wars Battlefront 2 on platforms that is available, and we're giving away Call of Duty World War II. So, if you want to win one of those games on a platform that's available, check out our giveaway video. So, because again, that only lasts till this Wednesday. So, if you want to enter, you only have a few days to do it. Check out that video to see all the kind of details on how you can win, just the steps. Like basically, the main thing is to subscribe to the YouTube, and of course we need your email and all that stuff. So anyways, all the details are in the video. Check it out so you can win a copy of either or if you want one specifically, you can put in your entry for that, or however you choose to do that. So check out that video. Definitely subscribe. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/the Nerdettes. And we really appreciate you guys watching and hope you have a good day. Bye, guys.